Hey, what's up? My name is Iris, and today I'm going to be telling you the books that I want to read in 2026. I have decided that this year I really want to focus on reading from my physical shelves. So, whether that means reading books that have been sitting unread on my shelves for a long time or rereading um, some other books, I just really want to try to read physically as much as possible. So the reason that I really want to focus on reading from my physical shelves is mainly because I really want to get to all of these books that have been sitting unread on my shelves either for months or sometimes even years. And also because I really want to start rereading again. When I was younger, I used to reread a lot. I didn't have that many books, and so I would just reread the ones that I had. And as I grew up and as my book library started growing, I sort of stopped doing that. And also, once I got my Kindle, it was like a lot easier for me to get access to like new books, not necessarily like new releases, but just like different books. And so I started reading a lot that way, and there was always something new to read, right? So I didn't feel the need to go back uh, to those books that I already read because there were so many other like exciting things that I hadn't read yet. And obviously that's still true. I mean, I think there will always be great books out there waiting for us to read them. But right now I have a lot of great books sitting on my shelves, and if I'm always chasing the next shiny thing, I'm never gonna get to them. And I really want to get to them because I think there are some really good things, and that's one of the things that I actually always try to do when I buy a book physically is that I try to buy a book that I know will truly contribute to my shelves. And I just really think that rereading is one of the most important things that we could do. I don't think that we can ever, this is my opinion of course, but I really don't think that we can ever truly understand a book by just having read it once. And in fact, there are several books on this list. There are books that the first time I read them, I either didn't like them or I just simply didn't understand them, and I knew like, oh, I'm gonna have to reread this, but I never like actually did it because again, there was always something new for me to read. um this year is different because this year I'm not reading, like I'm only reading from my shelves. Like that's the only thing that I can read. So let's just stop. I'm gonna stop blabbering and I'm gonna get to talking about the books that I want to read. Okay, first of all, I'm gonna tell you the books that I've already sort of like read in what's the month and a half of 2026 that's already gone by. The first book, I actually picked this up in January, and this is a book that had been sitting on my shelves. I'm not kidding you. I think since I was like 14 or 15, and I sometimes would like pick it up and read a couple pages and then put it down because this is a collection of poetry, and this is John Keats selected poems. As you can see, I've actually tapped a lot. I normally don't. The way that I read poetry is that I don't read it like front to back. I will usually like pick it up and like read it like, like jump from page to page. Like I don't read it like the way that you normally read a book, which is like from first page to like from cover to back cover. I usually I like having my poetry books. I like reading poetry collections more like in a more, I don't know, unconstructed way, or like whenever the fancy strikes me to read some poetry, I'll like grab one and like just like skim through the poems and like read the ones that interest me. But I knew that wasn't really going to work with Keats because I already tried it, and I don't know, I just really wanted to sort of like read the whole thing for some reason. So anyway, I did end up reading this like from page to cover, from cover from cover to back cover, and I actually am really glad that I did that. I really found this to have to I really found so much beauty within these pages. There were so many beautiful lines and so many beautiful poems. I wouldn't say I enjoyed every single poem. I wouldn't say that there's definitely something to be said about the way that, I don't know, I mean, it's obviously a product of the time. It's not necessarily that people spoke like this. Actually, in the introduction, they made it very clear that one of the main criticisms of Keats was the way that he wrote in a very like fanciful way, and that's something that actually kind of like worried me as well, as someone whose first language is in English, was how if it was going to be like very difficult for me to read, and sometimes it was, um, just because of the old-fashioned way that this poetry is written, and because he's constantly making reference to mythology and and like Greek and Roman mythology and to myths, and that's what I said. And there's like, it's very heavy on the mythology, like nearly every single poem he'll make reference to that. There's also a lot of like reference to like his specific historical context, to people he knew. I found that I enjoyed most the poems that so basically there's a lot of poems here that he did not publish, so that were published like after he died, and they are like usually a lot more simple in their language, and I found that those were the ones that I found like most authentic and that I liked best in their simplicity. They weren't so like full with like complicated references and like just like in fanciful or purple language, like not purple prose because it's not prose poetry, but I think that's expression of that really fits Keats, that he would like use so much like purple prose, and sometimes I think what they say, like less is more. Sometimes I did like the way that he wrote some stuff, even if it was fanciful, but I do think that my favorite lines were just the ones that were like the most simple but that conveyed the most beauty, in my opinion. But yeah, I'm really happy that I finally like fully read this, and I actually, as you can see, I've actually tapped a lot of stuff, a lot of lines and poems. There's one about a cat here that was really funny, made me laugh out loud. But yeah, this is the first. I'm just really happy, and I think it was a good start to this like goal that I've set myself for the year, to start with this book, because it really is a book that's been sitting on my shelves for years. So it was like, finally, like, this is setting the tone for the year, that this is the year that we're gonna read all of these unread books. And then next we've got my first reread of the year, which I'm so happy, which is Anne of Green Gables. I had my wisdom teeth removed last week, and I like couldn't get out of, I mean, it's not that I couldn't get out of bed, but I was pretty weak and in a lot of pain, and Anne of Green Gables just like gave me the comfort that I needed during that hard time. And I just like, I'd actually started rereading it, and I just couldn't get past like the first 50 pages, even though this is a book that I would reread like 4 times a year when I was like 12, 13, 14. Like, I adore this book, and I still do, but I hadn't reread it in many years, and I wanted to reread it, and so I picked it up, but I just, for some reason, I just couldn't, like, I would like get to like page 50 and just like stop reading, and then I got my wisdom teeth removed, and I just sat in bed for like 2 days straight, just like purely reading and having the best time. Like, honestly, I just kept smiling. Actually, it wasn't that good because smiling hurt a lot during those days, so it was kind of like both a good thing and a bad thing because it was very painful. But yeah, I just love it. This is just as sweet as I remember it being, just as funny as well. Like, seriously, like, Lucy Montgomery, she really has an amazing sense of humor, and I'm just really happy. And I actually, don't look, but I have all of the collection of the Anne of Green Gables, but I've only read the first 2, but yeah, I'm getting ahead of myself. But yeah, now the next 2 books are the ones that I'm currently reading. These are new books, so these are unread books, so books that I haven't read before. We have Dante's Inferno, which I actually bought last year, and this gorgeous copy, like, look how pretty. And I'm on page 79. This is short, like half of the book is just like notes, but I'm having a great time. This is so good. I was pretty taken aback when I started reading it. Maybe it's not my translation, although from what I've heard, it's actually like one of like the main characteristics of the Inferno, and I'm pretty sure probably the whole Commedia, which is that the language is so simple, and just the way that it's written, the way that it's narrated is so simple. Like, I went into this expecting to find something very complicated, very convoluted, something that I would have to like reread several times in order to understand like a single line. But no, it's so simple the way that it's told, the way that it's narrated, and I'm just having a really good time. I'm learning a lot. The way that I'm reading this is, sorry, I'm looking at my dog. The way that I'm reading this is that I'll read a canto, and then obviously I'll go over the notes that are at the back of the book, and then I also sort of like go into the internet and start just like looking for like different analysis of the canto, so I can really just like get everything that I can out of it. You know that there's like this trend, a couple, I don't know, I'm not really on social media anymore, but I saw this trend. It was like, this book is not gonna like defeat me or something, and it was like this person was like annotating a lot of stuff, and that's how I'm approaching the Inferno. Like, again, it's very simple the way that it's narrated, but beneath that simplicity, obviously there's a lot of complexity in, like, it's obviously a heavily allegorical work, and there's a lot of symbolism. There's a lot of reference to like historical figures from like Dante's time, from Florence, so all of that, it's, and obviously like a lot of religious references and stuff that you need to know. And as someone who's not particularly like well versed in like Catholicism or anything like that, I'm also learning a lot about like, or like I haven't really read the Bible, and there's a lot of references to like passages from the Bible or things that were said in the Bible. So it's just really, I'm just really having fun doing that. Like every time I read a canto, I'll just it's like a mini like lesson each canto, in a way that you learn a lot of stuff. And then the other book that I'm reading is J.L. Carr, A Month in the Country. This is a book, it's a very short book. It's 103 pages. I'm already 50 pages through, so I'm more or less halfway through. This is pretty good so far. It was heavily recommended to me when I went to the bookstore. And I went to Waterstones in London, and they recommended it to me. And I didn't buy it. I didn't end up buying it there because it was really expensive for such a short book. And I've never heard about it, and I was like, yeah, I don't know, like, what if I don't like it? And it's cost a lot of money. But then I ended up going to another bookstore, and I just saw it, and I was like, okay, you know what? I'm gonna bring it with me. So far, it's okay. I'm not like, I don't think it's gonna be like a new favorite. There is one passage that I highlighted. It's very bleak kind of passage, but I really liked it. I think I liked it because it's sort of like it rang true to me in a way, even though it's pretty bleak. I can read it to you if you want. It's not a spoiler. I think it's just like a reflection that the main character is having. Okay, wait, but I didn't tell you what this is about. Okay, so we're following Tom Birkin, who has been hired by a small village to uncover a church painting, a possibly like medieval, very old painting that's on their church, but because of time and stuff has been completely obviously like covered up by grime and dust and dirt. And anyway, they hire him to uncover it, and so this is just like the story of his time at this village in northern England. He's from the south, so he sort of sees the north as enemy country, although that's only like literally the first page, because after that he's just like, yeah, everyone's like actually quite nice except for the preacher of the church. But anyway, so far it's okay. Like, it's a nice book, but I'm not like wowed yet, but it's okay. But anyway, I'm gonna read you that one passage that I highlighted. As far as I'm concerned, he might just as well have gone round the corner and died. But that goes for most of us, doesn't it? We look blankly at each other. Here I am, here you are. What are we doing here? What do you suppose it's all about? Let's dream on. Yes, that's my dad and mom over there on the piano top. My eldest boy is on the mantelpiece. That cushion cover was embroidered by my cousin Sarah only a month before she passed on. I go to work at 8 and come home at 5:30. When I retire, they'll give me a clock with my name engraved on the back. Now you know all about me. Go away. I've forgotten you already. So yeah, it's a kind of bleak passage, but also like sadly very true. And yeah, I don't know. But yeah, so these are the books that I've read or I'm currently reading. Now let's get to the books that I want to read, that I haven't read, that I'm planning on reading the rest of the year. So hopefully I'll end up reading a lot more books than the ones that are on this list, because obviously I'm only going to mention like 26, well, without counting the ones that I'm already reading. I haven't actually counted how many books I have here. I just pull out like all of the books that I haven't read or that I want to reread. But we're gonna start. Oh, by the way, this is not in any particular order. Like, just because I mentioned a book doesn't mean that it's the book that I'm planning on reading next. It's just like in general. Like, I'm very much a mood reader, so I will pick up whatever I'm like in the mood for. So out of this list, go. I'll just pick them up as I feel it. I'll just pick them up as I feel, depending on how I feel. Like, maybe. So a book that I really want to read, but that I'm also really scared about reading, is American Psycho by Bret Easton Ellis. I, first of all, love this cover. Like, it's so cool. I really want to read this because I think that it talks about some very interesting topics that I'm very curious and interested in. And I actually started reading the introduction, and I know that you're not supposed to read the introduction because it's like full of spoilers. I don't really mind the spoilers, at least in this particular book, not like in general. In fact, I feel like I wanted to be warned because I know that this book has lots of trigger warnings, and I've been told by a friend that, you know, there are some very like triggering scenes here, and I'm just scared because I don't know if those are scenes that if they can be skipped, or if you skip them, would that take away from the meaning of the book? I mean, obviously, if they are in the book, it's for a reason. One of the things that the introduction said was that, contrary to what most people believe, the very violent scenes in this book are not like for shock value or just, you know, random. Like, they're obviously there for a reason. There's a reason why Bret Easton Ellis wrote them in. But I don't know. I just don't know if I want to read them. And I don't know if maybe I should just like wait until I feel like strong enough to be able to read this book in all of its horrifying details, or if I should just, you know, read it the way that I can read it without, you know, causing myself any unnecessary pain or like dread, right? But yeah, I'm just like, I don't know. I honestly don't. I really want to read this. Like, I really want to read it, but every time that I'm gonna pick it up, I'm just like, no. Like, I can't read this right now. Like, it's gonna demolish my mental health if I read this. So I don't know. Hopefully, this will be read this year. I really want to read it. I just don't know. I don't know. Okay, just we'll see. Anyway, that's American Psycho. We'll see. It's not certain that this will be read this year, but hopefully, I don't know. Was because this first this is why people have cats, I think. No, I'm kidding. I love my dog. Okay, so this next book is a book that has received a lot of attention lately because of the movie that came out recently. I don't know if it was it last year or was it this year? 2025 or 2026? I don't know. I haven't watched it. I don't really plan on watching it. I'm not talking about Frankenstein. I have read Frankenstein and I have watched Frankenstein, and I love both. I love the book and I love the new movie. But they do have a thing in common. There's two books and two movies, and that is Jacob Elordi. He's the little thing in the middle of the diagram. Then, ¿te cansaste? You want to say hi? Yeah, hi. Anyway, the book that I'm talking about is Wuthering Heights. So this would actually be one of the books that I want to reread this year, and I want to reread this, but to be honest, I had a pretty much like awful time the first time that I read this. I truly hated it. In fact, it's very rare for me to listen on audiobook to a book that I physically own, but I couldn't sit down to read this. Like, I had to pick up the audiobook because you could not have paid me to just sit down and read this. I think the reason I hated it so much was because it's just a book full of awful people doing awful things to each other. At least that's how it felt to me, and I know that that's the point, and so please bear with me. Like, I know that's the point, but I feel like the first time that I read this, I read it as very much as for this story, right? For as a reader who's going into a story, who wants to listen to a story, and to me, it's just not enjoyable. I did not find a story when I couldn't relate or sympathize with any of the characters, or when everyone was just like so awful. I just couldn't enjoy the story because it was like there's no one for me to root for. And it's either like you're an awful person or you're just like a victim of like truly horrible circumstances and things are happening to you. And I just wasn't enjoyable to me, like that kind of story, that kind of thing, those kind of characters. Obviously, that doesn't mean that the book is bad, and that doesn't mean that the story is not like worthwhile. It just means that it needs to be read in a different through a different angle, I think. So that's why I want to reread this. So not read it this time around as a reader, as someone who's just like reading a story. We rather focus on the themes, on the language, because I do think that Emily Bronte is a very talented writer, obviously. So the reason I want to reread this is not so much because of the story itself, or the characters, which I heavily disliked, but rather do maybe like a more intellectual reading of it, like see what Emily Bronte was trying to say with these awful characters and these awful things happening to everyone or being done to each other, by each other. It's just I feel like it's pretty common for there are two camps when it comes to Wuthering Heights. So you've got people who absolutely love this and people who absolutely hate it. Right now I'm on the hated camp, but I don't know, maybe if I reread it I'll be able to appreciate it more. Okay, this one is also going to be a reread, but I think I don't really count it as much as a reread because I read this so long ago. I think I was still in high school. For you to keep in mind, I'm like about to finish my university undergraduate degree, so like it's been a while. And I remember I read it like on my Kindle. It was just like I have a very hazy memory of it, and I don't even know if the version that I read on my Kindle was like the unabridged version. And actually, I don't know if this one is the unabridged. No, not unabridged. It's not unabridged. It's not unabridged version, but the what's the word? Because there's like, what's the word? There's like an unfiltered sort of like edition of The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde, and then you have like the edited or sort of like Victorian I don't know version of The Picture of Dorian Gray. But yeah, so this is technically a reread, but I'm counting more just as a read because I truly have very little recollection of this. I do remember enjoying it, but I just feel like reading it physically is gonna allow me in like with a lot more like hopefully a far more developed brain. I will like truly enjoy this a lot more and appreciate it a lot more. I used to be pretty obsessed with him back in high school, but surprisingly I never I mean, most people when they talk about Oscar Wilde, they talk about The Picture of Dorian Gray. I always gravitated more towards his plays. I fell in love with like the first play of his that I read is obviously one of the most popular, which is The Importance of Being Earnest. I had to study for high school, and I just like fell in love with him and his writing. I just thought that he was like a genius. I still think he's a genius, and all of his plays like I have so far like have enjoyed them a great deal. And I also read De Profundis, which I loved. I would love to have like De Profundis, like a physical copy of that, because it's truly wonderful. I honestly would read anything by Oscar Wilde. I also want to read like his letters. I remember when people say like I would read said authors like grocery list, I would seriously read Oscar Wilde's grocery list. So I'm really, the next book that we've got here is another a bit of like not complicated, but this is a book that I actually started reading on audiobook about like 2 years ago, and I actually really liked it. I just never finished it. Don't ask me why. I don't know why I never finished that audiobook, but I really liked it, and I recently got this copy, which is The Catcher in the Rye by J.D. Salinger. Salinger. I don't know. Anyway, I really liked it, and I think so. It's a bit of like a reread, but also like I didn't finish it, so the ending is gonna be like a surprise. I haven't had this spoiled, I think. Um, but yeah, just I don't know if I really have to tell you what the Catcher in the Rye is about. I feel like it's a pretty well known book. Okay, we are back after a short break for lunch. I'm back. The next book that I want to talk about is a book that I've actually heard nothing about. I've actually heard nothing about the author either. I don't even think that there is an English translation of this. This is, I think, originally written in German. I think the author is German. His name is Willem Genazzino. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. Anyway, it's called If We Were Animals, Si Fuéramos Animales in Spanish. I found this at a bookshop and it sounded really cool. It's about, we're following an architect, a middle-aged architect who is wandering around the city while he meditates about his incapacity to commit to a stable job, his rejection of the pleasures of consumerism, and the insufficiencies, and the effective insufficiencies. And his, sorry, I'm translating as I read, and his effective insufficiencies in love. So in the like romantic terrain. So this just sounded like it might discuss some interesting ideas. Yeah, like again, it's really short. It's like 150 pages, I think. So I should just like read it and give it a chance because I think it's going to surprise me. And also, I really like the cover. It's one that I'm so excited because I've been wanting to read this book for a really long time, and so to finally have a copy of this is like a dream come true, especially because it's like in one of my favorite editions, which is the Oxford Classics. I love the Oxford Classics. I think they're so aesthetically pleasing. I do think that the letter, the writing is a little bit small, but I don't care. And that is The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes. Every single Sherlock Holmes that I've read, and I've read 3, I think, I have really, really enjoyed. So I really wanted to read this because I know that they are like the quintessential like Sherlock stories. Hopefully I'll be able to start this like in March, April, so once the fall season starts, because to me Sherlock Holmes is like it's fall, like autumn. This is a book that I wanted to read for a really long time. I think it's like such a foundational work of literature, and not just like English literature, but like literature, like world literature, right? Like I'm saying literature too much, but I just think that really is like such foundational work. And that is Paradise Lost by John Milton. This is quite, I mean, it's not the longest book in the world, but as an epic poem, it is quite big. Although I will say, I'm looking at it right now, and let's see, where do the notes start? Let's see. So the poem ends in page 288, and this has 450 pages. So from page 289 onwards, it's all notes. Okay, like it's just pure notes, but it's still quite obviously a long epic poem. But I'm very, very excited to read this, and I love this copy. I think it's very, very cute. We have an author whom I read from for the first time last year, and I absolutely fell in love with her. I loved her so much. It's a Brazilian author. Probably you already know who I'm talking about. It's Clarice Lispector. I have this edition that includes 3 of of her novels. I think I would say like her most popular novels. So we've got Agua Viva, Hour of the Star, and A Breath of Life, I think it's called in English. Last year I read Agua Viva. I absolutely loved it. 5 stars. And now the next one is The Hour of the Star, which I'm very excited to read. I will say that I think, based on my experience with Agua Viva and on the little that I've sort of like skimmed from Hour of the Star, is like Clarice Lispector is an author that you really, although her novels are quite short, or at least these ones are quite short, at least for me, they're novels that you really have to take your time with. I would usually like reread like lines or paragraphs like 3-4 times just to make sure that I fully grasped what I was reading. I don't want to say it's convoluted, because I don't think that's the right way of expressing it, because it has like a very negative connotation. But it's definitely, it's not like a straightforward narration by any means. I think it's so important to sort of like take your time and like be patient and not try to like rush through it, because if you try to rush through her works, I think it's like it's gonna like sound like complete nonsense. Reasons why I'm very excited to like get back to it, because I really enjoy her writing, but it also means that I want to really have like the time and the mental capacity to sit down to read this. Okay, next we've got another book. I think there's already been quite a few classics in this list, but I think this is the first time that I'm gonna refer to them like as a classic. That is 1984 by George Orwell. I have read twice before from Orwell. I've read Animal Farm for school, and I also read, I think it's around here somewhere, In and Out of Paris, In and Out of Paris and London. Anyway, I read those two. Obviously, great works. Really don't have much to say. Like, it's George Orwell. You really can say. But obviously, like 1984 is his most like famous work, I'd say. Well, I mean, I think Animal Farm is probably. And I just really want to read this, especially with everything that's going on today in the world. I think this is gonna be a really interesting and reflective read. So yeah, we've got 1984. Finally, 2026 is gonna be the year when I read this. I can't believe that I haven't read it yet. Okay, the next book that we've got is another reread that I'm very excited about. This is one of my I don't know if it's, I mean, I do think it's one of like my favorite books. I've only read it once, so remains to be seen if it remains, if I love it as much the second time round. I read this on Kindle the first time, and I think it was last year that I finally like saw it on a bookstore, and I was like, oh my god, like I have to buy this because I loved it so much. The book that I'm talking about is Loveless by Alice Oseman. It's the bookmark just fell. This is a book that I love so much. We are following Georgia, who is about to, so she's just finished sixth form. She's from the UK, so she's just finished like basically like high school, and she's starting her first year of college, and basically she's trying to figure out what is going on, because she has never been in a romantic relationship. She has never really experienced romantic feelings for anybody, and so she's sort of like trying to figure out like what her sexuality is like is she like, she's trying to sort of like experiment and like see what is going on, like why hasn't she experienced love, and how long before her story begins. And it's such like a deep exploration of platonic love, of the way that society perceives platonic love, and how it perceives romantic love, of the way that we usually value romantic love more, the way that we prioritize it more, we see it as more valid than platonic love, than friendship. How boyfriends and girlfriends are usually seen as more than friends, like in the sense that like they are worth more, or that, you know, the only like your partner in life can only possibly be like someone who you have like a romantic or sexual relationship with. And this sort of like this like explores that and sort of like and questions it as well really well. Appreciate what this book does, so I'm really looking forward to rereading this. Got like the two chunkiest books on this list, I'd say. The first one is, I'm gonna pick like the one that's been on my shelves the longest, you can tell, because this was like white and this was like round. But yeah, so the first one is Snow by Orhan Pamuk. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. I don't really know too much about this. It comes heavily recommended, which is why I bought it. I know that it's set in Turkey. I know that we're following a reporter who is stuck in Turkey during a snowstorm. I think like a very like not it's not even like a storm, it's like a snow sort of like, I mean it is a snowstorm, but I think that it's like it goes on like for like a long period. Like it's not just like oh like a storm comes and goes, like it's like months, I think. There's obviously like an election, like some sort of political upheaval going on. There's a murder. Okay, so there's obviously like lots of things going on. And yeah, I don't know. I don't really know too much about this. I don't really know if I want to know too much about this. I might do some research on Turkey before I get into this, just to have some sort of like context. Oh, and it has a review by Margaret Atwood. Look at that. But yeah, that is Snow by Orhan Pamuk. And then the next one, I also have no idea what this is about. I mean, I do know a little bit, but I'm hoping to go into this with very little knowledge. I've heard that is like one of the best ways to go into this. And that is The Idiot by Fyodor Dostoevsky. Fyodor? I don't know, Dostoevsky. I read my first Dostoevsky last year. I read White Nights and Notes from the Underground, and I wasn't really sure what should be the next step. But apparently, I don't know why everybody and their grandmothers has been talking about The Idiot lately. And so I was at the bookstore and they had The Idiot, and they also had was it Crime and Punishment? Yeah, it was Crime and Punishment. And I was like, well, which one do I read? Like, which one do I pick up? And I Googled, obviously, because I Google everything. So I went onto Reddit and I was like, I mean, I didn't ask. Like, someone had already asked for me, thankfully, on Reddit, like, do I pick up The Idiot or do I pick up Crime and Punishment? And they were like, well, Crime and Punishment is like tears and suffering, and then The Idiot has like a more positive outlook. That's what, like, don't come at me if that's wrong, okay? I don't know, that's what the Reddit forum said. And so I was like, well, you know what, I think that there's gonna be like plenty of sad Dostoevsky books for me to read in the future, so I might just as well like try and go for the one apparently positive book. Although I'm pretty sure that this, like, I was listening to a review the other day, and apparently it's not a very happy book, despite what the Reddit forum said. But anyway, I ended up buying The Idiot. Call it peer pressure. Everyone was talking about it. It was just like, okay, whatever. I was getting FOMO. I was like, you know what? I'll read The Idiot, and then I'll read the others, whenever. But yeah, I've already lost track of how many books I've talked about. 17 books. Okay, yeah, we've got plenty more to talk about, so don't worry about it. The next book is one that I know that's been sitting on my shelves for a year, because I actually bought this for my birthday last year. So it's been officially a year since I got this, and I still haven't got around to it, and I don't know why. And that is Demian by Herman Hesse. Please ignore what is going on with this cover, first of all. Like, what is that? Why? Honestly, some book covers, anyway. Demian by Herman Hesse. I don't know what this is about, and I know what you're thinking. I told you at the beginning that I only bought books when I knew that I would enjoy them, and then I tell you like I have no idea like what I bought. But I mean, I do know, like I have heard of Demian by Herman Hesse. Like it's a pretty well-known, well-renowned work, so I knew that it's like that the chances of me enjoying it were quite high. I mean, even if I don't enjoy it necessarily, it's still a good work. It's very short, and I'm really, really looking forward to finally reading this. And this would be my first Hesse, which I'm very excited about. Okay, next we've got a nonfiction. I think this is the only nonfiction on the list, and that is Conspicuous Consumption by Thorstein Veblen. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. The unproductive consumption of goods is honorable. I think this is an essay. This is an essay about consumption, basically, and the way that people use goods or like certain, yeah, like goods and stuff, like material stuff, in order to show their status in a way, or like claim a certain status in society. I think it focuses on the leisure class. I'm not sure when this is from. Obviously, it's not like a contemporary work by any means, I think. Yeah, this was, yeah, okay, so this might have been first published 1899, but from what I've heard, this is still a very relevant work, and it's very, very short. So that's Conspicuous Consumption. Okay, we've got Chess by Stefan Zweig. This would be my first Zweig. Again, this is a book that I picked up because, okay, first of all, because I've heard a lot about Stefan Zweig. Actually, last year, I watched the Grand Budapest Hotel movie for the first time. I loved it. I watched it with my parents. They loved it as well. And it's obviously like apparently like heavily inspired by the writings of Stefan Zweig. So basically, we are following a chess champion who's on a ship due for Buenos Aires. This is 1941. He's a chess champion, and apparently he's like he's accepting challenges like to play like with the other passengers. I'm assuming just to like for fun, because obviously like he's a chess champion. They're not, and these are like normal people, but apparently among these like normal passengers, there's another man who challenges the chess champion to a match, and he might just be, be able to defeat the chess champion. And I think somehow, I think from what I remember hearing about this, like we get the story of the not the chess champion, but like the other player. We get like his story told as they play. That's Chess by Stefan Zweig. Okay, next we've got Chinua Achebe, Things Fall Apart. This is a book that I have wanted to read for so long. It sounds so interesting to me. Chinua Achebe, I have read like some of his like essays, specifically what he wrote about Heart of Darkness, but I haven't actually like read a work of fiction of his. So I'm really looking forward to reading this. This is something that tackles colonialism and racism straight off. But yeah, I'm just really looking forward to reading this. This is gonna be my first Achebe, at least like in fiction form. Okay, next we've got a poetry collection, and this is this was another one of those authors whom I read from, like Chinua Achebe but I read mostly like his sort of like academic works. He's especially in the fields of like literary criticism, and that is T.S. Eliot. But now I have his poetry collection, which is probably, I think, his most famous work, which is The Wasteland and Other Poets. This next one, this is an author that I honestly was quite surprised to find myself like drawn to, because I have never in my life been drawn to him before. I have never read anything from him, and that is The Sound and the Fury by William Faulkner. I think this is a very stupid cover. I don't really like it. Like, why? Like, I hate when they like just like what, like this generic like phone wallpaper of a cover. Like, why? Like, what does this tells me nothing about the book. Depicting the gradual. Did I mention that English is not my first language? If I didn't, please keep that in mind. Depicting the gradual disintegration of the Compson family through 4 fractured narratives. The Sound and the Fury explores intense, passionate family relationships where there is no love, only self-centeredness. At its heart, this is a novel about lovelessness. Only an idiot has no grief, only a fool would forget it. What else is there in this world sharp enough to stick your guts? And lastly, we've got this is okay. I have read quite a few of Shakespeare's works by now, but of all his plays, the one that I've always wanted to read has been The Tempest. I don't know why. It's just I don't even know what this is about. Like, I have no idea what this is about. But it's just I don't know why. I really wanted to read this, and so I finally managed to get my hands on a copy. This is the new Oxford Shakespeare. I don't know how is it different from a regular Oxford Shakespeare. Like, what is new about it? So yeah. Anyway, addition aside, I'm just really excited to finally have this, and hopefully I will get to I'm thinking, I don't know why, but this is giving me like a major winter vibes. But anyway, that's The Tempest by William Shakespeare. Very excited about this. Okay, so we've still got 3 more books to get to like the 26 books for 2026, but there is technically it's gonna be more than 26 books because this year is gonna be reading the whole of the Anne of Green Gables series. Yeah, I have only read the first 2 in the Anne of Green Gables, so I have already read Anne of Avonlea, so this is also going to be a reread. I have very fond memories of this. But then Anne of the Island, Anne of Winry, Poplars, Anne's House of Dreams, all the others, I have never read them before, but I'm very excited. So yeah, so technically it's gonna be a lot more than 26 books if we count like the 8 books in the series. But we're just gonna like sort of like count them like one. Like, it's just like one book series. Okay. We're in the last. Okay, we've got The Remains of the Day by Kazuo Ishiguro. Now, I have heard mixed things about Ishiguro. So some people love him, some people hate him. My only experience with him was a short story that I had to read for my British literature class. My past experience, my own personal past experience with Ishiguro hasn't been very good. Most people agree that The Remains of the Day is like his best work. So that's like why I picked this one up. I thought like it would be like the safest bet. Next, we've got, honestly, I cannot believe, okay, I'm so excited for this because this is going to be my first, well, technically it's not going to be my first Virginia Woolf because I have read A Room of One's Own and a few of her other essays on writing, but this is going to be like my first novel by Virginia Woolf, and that is Orlando. But from what I've learned, we're following Orlando, who is like a courtier at the time of Queen Elizabeth I. But then we also sort of like following him, like I don't know if he's immortal or what, but he kind of like, or he can time travel, or he's got something going on that allows him to just like keep living for somehow. Again, I'm speculating, I don't know. All I know is that we do follow him throughout like different periods in time and history. I also, from what I've heard, he doesn't stay a man for the entire book. I think he's gonna kind of like goes back between being a man and a woman, and then like maybe back to a man, or maybe he stays a woman. I mean, I don't know. I guess we'll see when we read the book. But yeah, this just sounds like it's gonna be such a good time. That's all the books. I mean, not all of the books, hopefully, but I hope I'll be reading more than 26 books in 2026. Although I'm also sort of like trying not to think about that. Like, I'll just, I'll read. I'm trying to focus more on quality reading than in quantity. So like just like taking my time with books and really like giving them the time and the attention that they need, rather than trying to like rush to them just so I can like mark them off as being read, because I do think that especially with like reading apps like Goodreads and Fable and Storygraph. There's like all this pressure. It's just like read as many books as fast as you can, and it just feels, at this point, it just feels like consuming books for the sake of consuming, like just like devouring them without actually ever like savoring them. And some books are okay for that. Like I think some books are just meant to be like consumed once and quickly, and that's it. And it's okay. It's like, you know, but I do think that there are so many other books that just, you know, it's okay to take your time with them. It's okay for a book to take you like a month or 2 months. I do really want to try this year to be more mindful, more intentional with my reading, and not just, you know, devour books without actually um, savoring them first, or digesting them first. You know, I really want to savor and digest what I read. That's an awful metaphor, but hopefully you understand what I'm trying to say. What I read this year. So, you know, if actually these are all the books that I read this year, I'll be very happy. Like, yeah, it's only 26 books, and compared to some people who read like 100 or 300 books, it might not be a lot, but to me, I think I would be very, very satisfied if I managed to read all of these books this year. And so, yeah, well, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. Let me know in the comments what books you're planning to read this year, if any of these books have made it onto your own list, or if you have any like recommendations based on anything that I have said. So yeah, see you.